joined by Katie LaForge, the head women's soccer coach at Avila University. Thanks for your time, coach, and how are you doing today?
I'm great. How are you?
Good. Just tell me, how's your summer been? How are things going for you in Kansas City, Missouri?
Yeah. It's hot right now.
Yeah,
But overall good. Just obviously gearing up for our season. So we will have all the players reporting here very soon. And as most people that are watching this that know college sports, it's just a quick turnaround and a go, go, go situation. So, as much as you can prepare for that, that's kind of what we're doing. But everything's good here in KC.
yeah. So in 3 weeks from today, your season will start. You play at Baker. So just tell me about some of the things that you do, in 3 weeks before your season begins, and some of the things that your players will do, especially more when they get onto campus when, classes begin.
Yeah, absolutely. So our preseason is pretty short, compared to some other levels. So we come in a little bit later than most schools. So we really condense the time that we are, in my opinion, taking a lot of time to really work on building relationships with each other, which for the female side, I think is very important to how they'll perform on the field. Just trying to get that trust really going, get the new people assimilated to what's going on and how we do things and how we operate. So that's really what we spend those first probably 2 weeks doing. That is on the field and off the field. We do the typical double day practices. Again, depending on the heat, like I said, it's hot here, so we have to monitor that, and we just make sure that we do maybe that we won't be doing a lot of work on the field that day if it's too hot. But then we try to do something that's building us up in another way. So that could just be our interpersonal relationships. It could be working, maybe looking at film or looking at our opponents ahead, stuff like that. So but once school starts, that's actually when it kind of settles down a little bit. The schedule gets very routine, and you hit those couple games a week, just one practice a day. We train in the afternoon, so yeah, that's kind of what we focus on. Yeah, and then again, like the student athletes are the ones that really have to make the big adjustment when school starts, as far as making sure that their schedule is manageable and that they start getting a handle on things. And especially for the newcomers who it's their first time stepping on Avila's campus as a student, just understanding where the buildings are, or what time of day is really hard to park, or just little nuances, I guess, that you have at every school. So there's just a lot of newness and a lot of different challenges that maybe they've not seen before, or they're transferring from a different school. So yeah, just a lot of things to kind of get on board with. But that's why we're here as coaches. My staff and I, we're really more about making sure that everybody's doing well mentally, physically, emotionally, in and out of the classroom, in and on and off the field, so that our performances can reflect something to be proud of.
Yeah, one thing I thought of to talk about that you mentioned is you mentioned getting comfortable on campus. So for you as coach, what have you, seen that helps, like in either an incoming freshman or a new player? How do you see that they get, what are some of the things that work to get them more comfortable, either, not just only on your team, but getting more comfortable, on campus?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think that for the most part, the best thing is just our preseason in general. We are the only, us, men's soccer and football and volleyball are the only sports that are on campus. So the other students haven't arrived yet. So you kind of get a little bit more of a eagle eye view, huh, pun intended, of the campus and how everything kind of looks. And then when all the rush of people come, you're not as overwhelmed with everything. We do have a lot of people that live on campus, and so they do get to move in early. So we encourage a lot of the players to spend a little bit of time in the dorms. I think that helps them acclimate to campus. They've probably done a handful of tours and whatnot. Prior to coming. So we also have we try to get our upperclassmen to make sure that all the newcomers know which building is which for their classes that come up on like, especially on the Monday of classes. So a lot of mentorship, I think, goes into it. Our team does we do sisters. So you have an older sister and a little bit of a younger sister. So that's always a really good person to talk to and ask questions and all that sort of stuff. But those are some of the things that come to mind when you asked me that.
Yeah. Then another question I wanted to ask, then we'll get into your upcoming season and other topics. But what are some of the things that, you do, soccer wise for your team, like during the summer and, during the winter and the spring when you're not in season because your season is August, through November. So what are some of the things you do when you're, either you or your players do, when you're not in season during the fall?
Yeah, so the kind of exactly how you said, August through November is our season. So that's
Mhm.
where it's really heavy, I guess you would say. And then, hopefully we're playing into a good part of November to get into, postseason and all that stuff. So once we kind of transition out of the season, though, it's literally like only days left in the semester. So it really is a time where I try to just like release the girls to allow them to focus on their finals and all that sort of stuff. And so winter break is here and I give winter break almost off completely. I give them workouts that they can do once they start to feel good, but my rule is really like you got to let your bruises heal. You got to like just really take some downtime to kind of rejuvenate. And so I think it's always a good time of year to do that. It's Christmas, being with family, transition into the new year, new semester. So once they come back in January for classes, that's when we just start to do it's mostly strength and conditioning 3 times a week. And then I will sprinkle in some individual training sessions where we get to touch a ball. Most of that is done indoors. So here in Kansas City, we have the full gamut of weather. So it's either bitterly cold or there's snow on the ground. So it's really difficult to get outside during that time of year. But that's, more than half the country as well. So, but we do spend a lot of time inside. So we play futsal quite a bit. So it's with a smaller ball. It's harder. It doesn't bounce as high, and the girls have flat shoes. So we're able to really like kind of get some good touches in during that time. Once we hit about spring break, which is, that mid-March time, that's when the weather turns. We're able to get outside. We continue to do the 3 sessions of strength and conditioning here, and we have a great strength and conditioning team, which is fantastic. So they really keep the girls in good shape, keep them healthy, which is always the biggest thing. Injury prevention is a big thing for us. Um, and then we kind of transition to outdoor practicing. And, that's usually no more than twice a week for that. And then we have, so at NAI, we have rules that you have 3 days that you can do a scrimmage or dates of competition, essentially. So we end up doing a 7v7 tournament here locally in Kansas City. Kansas City is a big soccer place, for those of you that aren't familiar, but so there's tons of universities around. So we actually all get together. I think, gosh, last time there was like 12 schools. We all got together that are pretty local. There was a couple from a little bit outside Kansas City, but they came in. We did a 7v7 tournament. And we usually do that like the first weekend in April. And then we try to get 2 more scrimmages in. So just depending on the year, there's a lot of local junior colleges. So I like to use it as a time to also recruit and for the next season and stuff like that. So and then before you know it, the semester's over. They typically graduate like the first weekend in May. And then the summertime is an interesting time because we cannot make anything mandatory, but we can host practices, we can host training sessions. Our weight room is open 4 days a week, 7 to 4, or 3 days a week, excuse me, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. So they're able to come in, do their workouts. We send them everything. So even if they're not local to Kansas City, they have the breakdown of everything that they need in order to prepare. And yeah, that's kind of the full cycle of the year. And we just rinse, wash, and repeat.
Yeah, do you find that obviously it's probably different for each player? I've talked to, several different coaches, but for you, do you find that some of your players, tend to, do at least something during the summer or, the winter or the spring to keep their, soccer game sharper, especially during the summer? do you
Yeah.
more see that they, go home and maybe have like jobs or internships or do other things, non-soccer wise?
Yeah, so it's a mixture. Definitely. So during the winter, I find that my girls do a lot of indoor soccer, which is great. Again, building camaraderie, building all that stuff, and just playing and getting touches is always fun and nice for them. So they end up in just like local recreational leagues, I guess you could say. And then during the summer is when you kind of see it just depends on geographically where they are. So I had quite a few girls that were from Oklahoma, and they had access to like semi-pro teams. So
Okay.
they were able to play those in the summer. And again, it's not, they say semi-pro, but you're not necessarily getting paid to be there or whatever, but it's a higher level. It's a good time for a lot of the college girls to come home or come back to wherever they are, and it allows them to actually play in like pretty competitive games in the practices. In Kansas City, we have quite a few. I used to coach one of the semi-pro teams as well here in Kansas City. So it's a really nice thing just to be able to get people together, have a good training session. It's always fun to coach them as well. But a lot of the girls like to do that. And I think it helps them, just keep their speed of play, speed of thought going. You can never get too many touches, in my opinion. I think it does help with the fitness level as well, because you're reminded, oh yeah, this is how hard I need to be running in a game or performing at practice. And then others are having to balance both like you said, internships. At Avila, some of our like flagship programs are like our radiology program and our nursing program. And so I know for the radiology program, they have to do internship hours for the summer leading up to their junior year. So they are basically full-time working, but not necessarily getting paid. So they have to get either their workouts done early in the morning or late at night. And so, they just have to do it, sometimes it's just a gym membership that they can do, or some of those that live at home that are kind of a little bit not in such a big city, I guess you would say. So they don't have access to a good soccer, you know, summer programs or stuff like that. But yeah, local to Kansas City, they have everything at their fingertips. But it's also full of, fun things and distractions. We've got all the sports teams, we've got all the music, concerts, all that sort of stuff. So there is plenty to do, but sometimes it can get a little, like I said, you need a balance, right? And make sure that all of your aspects of your life are in good shape. But from the soccer standpoint, just gotta, it's always better to kind of put in the work in the summertime, so that by the fall you're just ready to go and you're not gonna really, it's more about like injury and overtraining and stuff
Yeah.
like that.
That's great. So I wanted to talk about last season, which was obviously probably very special for you and your team. Your team went 13-3-4, highest win total in over 10 years for your program. But
Yeah.
unfortunately, your team, did have heartbreak in the KCAC uh, tournament in the semifinals. You lost in a shootout to York. So just
Yeah.
tell me, first off, how special, last season was. Just, how your team dealt with the heartbreak of losing in the semifinals to York, and just, overall what your takeaways were, and what you learned for going into this season in 3 weeks.
Yeah, I think that heartbreak is still very fresh in everybody's minds. You know, I don't know if you ever really get over something that you're just so close to having that happen. But I think the girls have really used it as fuel for the spring. And, for me personally, as a coach, it was a very big year. I actually gave birth to my third child in mid-July. So I missed a little bit of preseason at the beginning of this very special season. So kudos to my assistant coaches at the time. Um, and to the girls as well, to have me missing, I guess you could say, and still be able to focus and get it done, really. So yeah, it was special for me. Becoming a mom again is fantastic. It also comes with challenges. The girls always gave me lots of grace, and that was probably the biggest thing that helped us to be able to have such success was we were the hardest critics on ourselves at the time. And, most of my halftime talks were just about like, hey, be okay with making mistakes. Like, we recognize that maybe that these, X, Y, and Z that just happened in the first half is not how we want to play. Let's fix it. We know how to do it. And they just had confidence in that. They gave grace to each other as teammates. And I think once that really starts to come to be, your success on the field is easy. Um, and so that's probably the most special part is that, I have been here now for 8 years. And so, having the best winning record in 10 years is fantastic because, I've had lots of talented teams before. And, we've made it to the conference tournament 7 out of those 8 years. But this time was pretty like, the road was open, right? It was open to making it to the finals. And um so it was, again, special in the sense that we had a lot of positives, I guess, come out of it in terms of the statistically, right? But to watch a group of young ladies that are talented, but also just really, really believe in each other that's the most special part. So like a lot of people were only seeing the product on the field, but to be a part of that, like behind the scenes, was really cool. And that's the fulfilling part as a coach, is to watch that happening and then to see them get those results. Is there might be nothing better as a coach. Obviously we didn't finish the way we wanted to. There were some interesting circumstances surrounding that semifinals. We were the last game of the day and there was some crazy weather, so we ended up indoors. But with that being said, we were the fourth game of the day, and because the men's semifinals went on in the morning, and then we were the second women's game of the day, and two of the three games went into a penalty shootout before us. So as you can imagine, the timing of everything just got later and later. We didn't kick off until 9 p.m. And so our last PK was taken at midnight. And so it was just a really like, not only was it memorable because unfortunately we did not win that shootout, but it was also very memorable because it was so late. Everyone was there. Everyone left everything that they could on that field. And that is the only reason that we can genuinely like look back and walk away from it feeling proud. And that we knew that we gave everything that we could. And it was a sad ride home, to be totally honest. But we still talk about it. It's not something that we just forget about. But again, like I said earlier, the team is using it as fuel. We talk about it in the sense of like, learn from it. Let's not let that happen again. Like, all that stuff. Because when it comes to shootouts, anything can happen, right? And not always the best team wins. And I can say that, on both sides of the spectrum. Obviously, like I'm a little bit, biased because I wanted to win, but it was a really, really great season for a lot of players and for the team as a whole. And I hope that this season is very similar, but with a little bit of a brighter ending.
Yeah. So coach, you just mentioned something that I thought would be good to talk about. So you talk your team in the semifinal of the KCAC tournament, your team, had to deal with weather and, other matches going, long. So your team had to play indoors starting at 9 p.m. So those are things out of your control. As
Yep.
coach, when your team deals with things that are out of your control, I play golf, so you have to deal with weather and, the courts can be difficult. So just for you as coach, when your team has to deal with things out of their control, like a late start or weather and having to play indoors, what advice do you give to your team when dealing with things that are out of their control?
I mean, luckily we've had that conversation many times before in the year. So it's not the first time they're hearing any sort of advice on like control the controllables and don't worry about the rest. So that was helpful in that moment because I think everybody knew like, hey, there's nothing we could do about it. Let's do our best, right? Let's try and not worry about it. The other team has to play in the same sort of situation. So, that was kind of the biggest conversation piece. And for the most part, I just tried to have those conversations with individuals that I knew needed to have that conversation. And then, to be totally honest, we did a lot of we always pray before games. And so that's something that if we can just understand that there's again things that are just not within our control, and just asking God to help us in those moments of if we're feeling that struggle and that tension between the what we can control and what we can't, and how it feels unfair or it's have it's basically taking our feelings and our focus away from the task at hand. And then also just leaning on each other in that moment as well. Like we were there for a reason in that place with those people. And I always say this after the last game of the season. So, but the team will never be the same in this moment with the same people. So just be happy for what we had and it'll be okay. Like because that's the other thing too. It's the end of a season. It's some crazy statistic. It's like dang near every team loses on their last game of the season. There's only one team that's a reigning champion, national champions, for those who make the postseason. So we made postseason. We had a great year, some great accolades, some great stories, some great memories, and some great struggles and some challenges. And it was easy to talk to them about that. They did not let that into their brains. They did not play like it was 10 o'clock at night. We just tried to power through and like I said, they gave it all. So that to me is a sign that like they were mentally prepared. They knew what they needed to do and they, poured it out.
Yeah, even though the result wasn't what you wanted, they were able to control the controllables, just give their all. That's probably
Yep,
what you could hope for as coach.
definitely.
So what I wanted to ask, last season, your team started, you played Dordt in Iowa and you lost 6-0. So I was wondering, as coach, just tell me how was your team able to rebound, after a tough season opener, losing 6-0 to have such a, incredible season after that? Because I'm sure there was a lot of, tension, maybe uncertainty, just things like that, a lot of pressure,
Yeah.
season opener, losing 6-0. Just how was your team able to rebound after that tough season opener and to have, the special season your team did last year?
Yes, we do not forget our beginnings. That is for sure. Um, in a lot of ways, so that was a part of the season that I was not technically there for.
Okay.
And so I did go and support the team, but I was not coaching from the sideline.
Okay.
So so I got to watch the entire
Well, then
0 to 6
I'll
days.
spin the question. How
Yeah.
was it for you, not being able to coach and just, see your team have a tough season opener?
Yeah, it was I I have told my husband many times that it was probably one of the hardest things I ever had to do as a coach. Talk about not being able to control things, right? Like as a coach, you're kind of in the driver's seat. You make decisions, you can, move the puzzle pieces, move the chess pieces around the board and try to help your team. There was nothing that I could do. And it was torture. I'm not gonna lie, it was torture, but I think any coach would probably say that. But ultimately, I knew that I put my full trust into my coaching staff that was there. And, we were able to sit down after the game and just talk it over, and talk through it and be like, hey, what were y'all thinking? Like, what was going on? Because you don't know. There's just so much. And I knew this in the moment. It was still hard, but I was like, there's so much going on that sideline that I don't know about. Like, I'm over here with the fans. Like, I knew that there was just so much else going on. So I didn't push them to like tell me anything, but I just wanted to see like, are they going to come to me and ask me like, hey, what's, because 6-0 is a huge loss. It's
Yeah.
huge, like in soccer, that's big, right? That's like you alluded to, like it's kind of like, oh my gosh, this is a problem sort of thing. Um, but they were confident in the change in game plan because we actually played the next day. And they were able to come back from a 2-0 loss and win 3-2 or
Yeah.
2-0 deficit and then to win 3-2 in regulation. So when that happened, I was like, this team can face anything. They just got their booties beat the day before 6-0, and then they can turn around and come from behind and win the game and have composure to do it. The coaching staff had composure to do it and knew all the things. It was actually makes that year even more special because it could have been one of those things where, oh man, we are just mentally, it could have just taken them out and they could have just lost 6-0 the next day. Um, and in that game, probably, getting scored on twice, they're probably like, oh man, here we go again. Um, so such a short turnaround. Me technically not being on the sideline. There was we were away in Iowa. So we were playing Northwestern College in that second game. And so again, humble beginnings, but I think it was also really enlightening for the girls to be like, oh my goodness, we can do it. We can do anything. Like we can come back from a deficit. We can, play a certain way yesterday and then be different today. And they just really made it happen on the field. So if anything, I think it just makes the story even cooler.
Yeah, I'm sure you're so proud of your team for rebounding after the tough season opener and even having a deficit against Northwestern. So I'm sure you're very proud of your team for dealing with some, early season deficits last
Absolutely.
season. So let's talk about this season, the 2025 season. As we mentioned, it begins in 3 weeks. Just tell me, what are you most excited about for this upcoming season? How does your team look? And just tell me about your schedule you're going to play this season.
Ooh, what's the most excited thing? Um, that's hard. Okay, because I, well, one, I'm excited to be here. I have not had a child recently. So I'm excited to be here for preseason in its full capacity. So that's just something I'm excited for because I missed out a little bit on that last year. And it is a special time. Like you can't, there's nothing to replace that time. So I'm excited for that. That's a personal note. Um, but I think in general, I'm just excited to see, well, one, I'm excited to see the 2025 class come in. And there's some really special players and people in that group. And we are going to look a lot different than last year. So, again, maybe a little bit more of a personal thing is that I'm excited to see all the pieces fit together, right? As a recruiter, for my program. And it's just fun to see all these pieces that you see in your mind maybe come together or fit differently than you did see it initially. So I'm excited for the team to see my vision for what I had in store for them. Um, because there's nothing probably more exciting and fulfilling than to see your players who trust you to essentially like keep the program going by like bringing in new people and for them to open their arms and take them in and to do it on their own. I don't have to ask them to do that. Like, so that to me is a sign of like a healthy culture that they are willing and able to bring in because essentially you're opening your arms to competition for your position, your playing time maybe, but they're still willing to do that because they know ultimately that's what's going to help the team and it's what's going to help them win and be even better hopefully than last year. So that's probably the most exciting parts for me. I think I said three. I know you asked for one, but
Oh, yeah.
those are probably my top.
Yeah, no, I was just interested in, getting your perspective on how your roster looks and the schedule you'll play this year.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah,
That's
if you
always
could
nice
talk.
I like to focus on us. I don't, I know a lot of people like look forward to like the competition of each game. I am
Yeah,
looking forward to playing Baker again. Um, we haven't played them in a few years and we had a really not great
yeah,
last game against them. Probably what is that? 3 years ago, 4 years, probably 3 years ago. And so I'd like to see, in relation where we were then, in my mind, I know there's a big difference, but like let's see it out on the field and it is the first game of the year. So, what's that going to look like? How's our team going to come together that quickly? All that sort of stuff. So I think that's probably the game. And then we're playing some similar games or some similar opponents as last year. So yeah, we'll get to see a little bit of that in the non-conference schedule. And then, when conference gets here, it's
yeah,
anybody's game because it's a really good tight conference in terms of competition and I think quality of coaching in general.
yeah. Can you tell me about your conference, the KCAC?
Yeah. Um, so the KCAC, we are 14 teams. Mostly, so it's the Kansas Collegiate Athletic Conference. So most of the teams are in Kansas. Obviously, we are not. We're just on the Missouri side. If anyone knows the geography of Kansas City, we're just on the Missouri side. Um, then we have a team in Nebraska, York, and then we have a team in Oklahoma, Oklahoma Wesleyan. And then we have a team in Missouri as well, Springfield, Missouri, Evangel. And then everybody else is in Kansas. So our travel is about for us, thankfully, is round about that 2.5 hours to the games. Um, we are just like most other um conferences, we are again in the same season as the men. So we travel with the men. We play, back-to-back games, essentially double headers, everywhere we go. Some of our non-conference games are separate from the men's schedule, but everything in the conference is identical. Um, and so, we have quite a few good teams. I would say, they're out of the 14, there's 10 that are always, maybe even 12 that are always nobody's getting blown out. They're tight games, they're competitive games. We have Oklahoma Wesleyan who tends to they're usually in the top 25. So they tend to kind of run the score up on teams sometimes, but for all the other teams, it's still very competitive. And we were on the right side of a lot of results last year. So looking forward to kind of seeing those teams again and seeing what their new rosters look like.
Yeah. So, Coach, can you tell me a little about your university, Avila? I know you're a smaller school, like under 2,000 students, NAIA school. So, can you tell me a little about your university?
Yeah, so we are, like you said, in Kansas City, Missouri. So we are in the Midwest. Kansas City is kind of what I would call a little big town. That we have everything that like a normal like big city would have, but we're pretty spread out, I would say, as far as geographically, like we extend pretty far. So we are technically in Kansas City, Missouri, but we are not downtown. We're not in an urban area. We're in a suburb. But we are still technically considered in Kansas City.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, where our school is about 150, it's more than that now, but it's an old school. We've been here a long, long time. And we are actually more closer to like 3,000 students now. And we have, our campus is smaller. We have a lot of dorms on campus. We have all of our athletic facilities are on campus. We have great access to kind of get anywhere and in Kansas City. So we, like I kind of mentioned earlier, we some of our flagship majors and programs are kind of more on the science side, with radiology and kinesiology and nursing. Those are the ones that tend to be our majors, that are especially my student athletes tend to want to kind of get into. But otherwise, we pretty much have everything. We have a lot of postgraduate stuff as well. And so we have, how many sports do we have now? I think 14 sports. Um, and yeah, we seem to keep growing, which is great. Um, but yeah, a smaller school, been here a while in Kansas City. Everything's kind of grown around us essentially. Um, and yeah, I don't know if there's any other, did I miss anything?
Yeah, my next question is just how special is Avila to you and your family to know that your father attended Avila, your mother did, your brother played on the men's soccer team, and I believe you're also your other brother's the men's soccer head coach. So just how special is Avila to you and your family, and just what it's been like coaching the women's soccer team now for 8 seasons?
Oh, that's a tough question. You do your homework though. Good job. So I have always had a connection with Avila in that my grandmother went here, my aunt went here, my mom went here, my dad went here. That's actually how my parents met. My
Okay.
mom was playing tennis and my dad was playing soccer. So yeah, the roots and the connection to Avila run very, very deep. There's buildings named after the nuns that my dad absolutely adored, that he claims helped get him through his and get him graduated here at Avila. And obviously, my both my parents were talented athletes, but now they've always been in the business of giving back. But I think now that my brother and I, like you said, my brother is the head coach for the men's program for soccer. they're even more motivated to make sure that we, get as much as we can from alumni and all that stuff to help keep growing and to keep being successful and, ultimately to win a national championship and bring that home. So, yeah, I feel very blessed to be here. I technically got this job right before I turned 30, which is kind of crazy. Because I spent most of my 20s actually playing soccer professionally. And so I got into coaching like late is what, probably people would say. So I spent 1 year at Johnson County Community College and then 2 years at KCK Community College. So just locally here in Kansas City, but on the Kansas side. And both of those experiences really kickstarted my joy for the game. And so to find it, your fulfillment, but then also be at the place that means so much to like my family and then to, ultimately to me, um, the investment and the time, the blood, sweat, and tears, what everybody says, feels like nothing. It feels easy. It's a family here. My coworkers are not my coworkers. They're like an extension of my family, and they treat me the same way. And that's really comes from the university in general, and but especially our athletic director. And I've really just been, again, feel very blessed to be here, to be the only female coach in the conference, to be supported not just by my Avila family, but my family. And I think hopefully, everything I'm doing is making them proud.
Yeah. So, Coach, can you just tell me a little bit about, growing up yourself and playing soccer, and then you played collegiately at Marquette University. So just tell me about growing up playing soccer yourself and then playing collegiately at Marquette.
Yeah. So I am originally from Kansas City, born and raised, and so yeah, my dad is a soccer absolute junkie. So he just can't get enough and he played as long as he could and he's been coaching even longer now. So he coached me, he coached most of my siblings. So I have three younger siblings. I'm the oldest. And so we are a Catholic family as well. So we went through the Catholic school system here in Kansas City, and so that's kind of how I ended up at St. Teresa's. And I was very fortunate and got to win quite a few things there. So, playing soccer for your school, wherever you go, is just a really special experience. And so, and I was able to be on a really successful club soccer team, which helped me with recruiting. I am becoming ancient now, so life was a little bit different back then. But yeah, it was still the recruiting process did, kind of still start at the same time on the female side. So we ended up winning a national championship with my club team right before my freshman year of high school. So it was the perfect time because it put us on the radar. And so then everyone on my team essentially got to pick wherever they wanted to go to college and play. So that was pretty amazing. And that's for another interview. That club team was just something special.
Yeah.
Um, but so yeah, so ended up at St. Teresa's, and then I again had my options, but I think it came down to Mizzou. So University of Missouri, Marquette, and Minnesota. And the reason for those were I knew those coaches in some capacity. So I had either like um, you know, been coached by them or something like that in summer programs that I was involved in. Um, so I knew those coaches. Those were my top three that I kind of like whittled it down to by the end. And Marquette spoke to me in the sense that because I'd been in Catholic schools my whole life, my class sizes were small, and I was used to that kind of smaller community and smaller learning environment. And so when I had gone to Minnesota and Mizzou, I was like, whoa, this is huge. Like classes are like a couple hundred people. So it just wasn't probably ideal for me on the academic side. Because obviously all three are great schools, great programs. And I really couldn't go wrong with the coaches that I knew, but something felt different when I was at Marquette. And it's probably, actually, I know for a fact it has absolutely changed my life in that all the things that I do as a coach now, I replicate a lot of the things that were done for me at Marquette with my coaches. And I felt that the moment I was on campus, the moment I met those players, the open arms, the family environment, the bringing them in, sort of thing. So I was able to, and I felt like that was the right choice for me. So that's how I ended up at Marquette. Did some special things there, grew up a lot. But I just didn't want to quit playing soccer. I loved it. And I did have a very interesting path to getting to play professionally. It is nothing like it is now. As far as like, how thriving the NWSL is right now. So you had to go overseas if you wanted to play. So as I was graduating from college, the WPS was the name of the league before the NWSL. It had folded. And so I had done a couple preseasons with some teams and stuff like that. Actually, one of the preseasons I got to spend with Emma Hayes, who is now the national team coach.
Okay.
She coached at Chelsea and is wildly successful. Um, and she's actually the reason that I got to go overseas because she made a phone call for me because I got cut at the very end of the season. Or preseason, they went from 24 roster spots to 22, and I got cut. And so I was like, oh man, what am I going to do? Sort of situation. And, she had done a great job of like helping, understand each player and what their goals were and stuff like that. And so, I told her I would do anything, go anywhere, just want to keep playing. And so she had made a couple phone calls for me. And, luckily I answered a random phone call from Sweden. And so that's how I ended up in Sweden for my first professional gig. They never saw me play in person. That was the kind of before the time of film as well. You couldn't, easily send, film places and all that stuff. And so yeah, she kind of just took Emma's word for it. And there I was, just in Sweden playing. And actually that coach, Beta Gunnarsdottir, she's actually the now the head coach for the Belgium national team. So she was just I believe she was at the Euros just now, but over the summer. So yeah, it was I mean it just once you kind of get networked into that, you just keep on going. You sign the next contract, you get new coach opens new doors, this and that. And as long as you perform and do all the things that they've, signed you to do. So I bounced around a little bit. I was in Sweden for a couple years, then I was in Germany for a year, and then I came back to the United States, and that's when I got to play for it's not the it was what it's not the KC Current is the team that's here now in the WSL, but it was FC KC was the original Kansas City team. So I got to play in the inaugural NWSL game here in Kansas City against the Portland Thorns. So and I got to test my running ability against Alex Morgan. That was interesting. But it was amazing to do that in front of my home fans and all that stuff and get on the field. So, and that I was playing for Vladko, who's actually former national team coach and is now coaches the KC Current. So, the soccer world is small. But after that, I decided I wanted to kind of pursue the next level, and I was hoping to get on the national team. And so my funny story, my dad is actually from Canada. So he came to the United States back in the 80s to play soccer at Avila, and that's how he ended up here. So I was actually trying out for the Canadian national team. And so I got called into camp. I did not get a cap, but it was a really, really cool experience. And I got to play for it was John Herdman at the time. He's now on the men's side. I believe he was doing the men's Canadian national team, but I think now he's the head coach for um Toronto and in the MLS. So he swung over to the men's side. But um and then so I wanted to play more essentially than what I was getting with the domestic league because at the time there were not a lot of teams and there was a lot of talent. So I was playing center back behind Becky Sauerbrunn. So as you can imagine,
Yeah.
I learned a lot, which was fantastic. And she's a wonderful person to learn from. Um, so yeah, I ended up back overseas, played in Finland, and then played in Finland one more time so that I could play with my sister, who is 5 years behind me. She went to St. Teresa's with me, or well, behind me technically, and then went to Marquette as well. And then we were able to finally play together on a soccer field in a real setting, professionally for my last season. And I got to play in Champions League, which was cool. Yeah, I've been very blessed to have a lot of cool experiences, but eventually you got to come home. So, and I didn't know what I wanted to do next. And so, that's when I kind of got introduced to the coaching world. And I didn't know if I thought I would never find anything fulfilling enough as soccer was for me. And, and how much I loved the game. But I have found it to be way more fulfilling than playing ever was. Don't get me wrong, I still love to play. So anybody needs me on their indoor team, just let me know. Um, but yeah, it was a really, really cool experience. Obviously gives me a little bit of a different background as far as coaches go and as far as female coaches go. And so then from there, like ever since, I just dove right into the coaching side, and I now have my A license for US soccer. That was crazy experience because I gave birth in the middle of that, but that's again for another day and another interview. So
Yeah.
but yeah, I got married. I have 3 kids now. Yeah, life just looks a lot different than what I was just explaining to you as far as me playing and what that looked like. But yeah, I've had a good run. It's been
Yeah.
good.
Yeah, you already touched on a lot of my next few questions, but for you, what was it like playing overseas, in Sweden and Finland? And then special experience, what was it like getting to play in FC Kansas City and getting to play in the first NWSL match in Kansas City?
Yeah, playing overseas, I think it's not for everyone. You get thrown into a place where you may not know the language, you don't know anybody. So like I'm a pretty flexible person, so like I can just go with the flow. Um, and so I loved every minute of it. There were lots of hard stuff, but it was so enjoyable to get to meet people, to play the game I love, to play soccer every day, get paid to play. Like there's just nothing better. Um, we didn't get paid a lot, but um, they did everything that they could in terms of like the clubs to, feed us and give us all the gear that we could, and get our housing for us and pay us enough to live. By no means did I get rich, but the experience of going away from home, being immersed in a different culture is just there's no experience quite like it. So that was really cool. And then obviously just the playing, with different people in a different style, and um yeah, just getting to meet tons and tons of people. So it's a really the nor like the whole Scandinavian countries in general are fantastic people, great lifestyle, like so you just can't beat it really. And they all speak English for the most part. So that's nice. Yeah, playing in that first game, like I said, just really proud to kind of get to that point, to be even considered to be on the field with all those amazing players. Like if I name them all, you'd be like, holy cow. Um and to just be in that moment and be in my hometown. And it was one of the first times really because again, I was kind of before the time of live stream. So my parents never really got to see me play professional soccer. If they wanted to, they had to come over to whatever country I was in.
Okay.
And when with 3 younger siblings, that wasn't happening very often. So my dad did get to come over and watch me play in Champions League. And then my mom came over one time and watched me play in Germany. So that was pretty cool. But otherwise, they'd never seen me play, except 1 or 2 times. So it was cool to have them there, my family, and, all the people that I know and love from Kansas City who love soccer were there. And it's funny, one of the coaches, she's my graduate assistant. I coached her when she was 12. And so she's now here coaching with me as my graduate assistant here at Avila. And the other day, she brought in my FCKC like player card that we would hand out as far as like you could autograph it. And so she brought it in. It's like autographed by me. It's in my maiden name, like all this stuff. So it's just super surreal, like full circle sort of thing. So yeah, I don't think I'll ever yeah, it was a great experience. It's really cool. The only thing I ever get sad about is that my kids have never seen me play, which I think is really cool to see, like some of the females that do it now that have kids and their kids are watching them. They got their little jerseys on, like that sort of thing. So that's something that I have technically won't get to have, but yeah, it doesn't take away from the experience. It was one of the best.
Yeah. And then after playing professionally for a few years, you've now been coaching. So tell me, um, how did you end up transitioning into coaching after playing professionally? And what has the experience for you been like? Like, what have you learned? And just
Yeah,
how's the experience been coaching so far?
it has been eye-opening. Um, it has been challenging. It's been extremely rewarding. It's been just something that it's just a process. It's a process not only to detach your identity from being a player, because I think everyone goes through that. I think they're probably making movies about this now, as far as like young athletes who have been doing this their whole life and then all of a sudden it's over. It's like, okay, what do I do next? Like I love this game, but like I haven't spent the last years like in any other field. So what do I do? For me, the lucky, I would say the biggest blessing is that having my dad and my family here in Kansas City is that they have deep connections and networking. And so the most logical thing seemed to be that I was a former professional female soccer player who was possibly looking into coaching. And then I was just like became this like weird unicorn thing that people were like, oh yeah, I'll give you a job. I'll give you a job. But I was skeptical because I was like, I don't know who I am without being a player. So there were some years, especially here at Avila, when I took on as a head coach, um, that I had to grow a lot. I think that's probably what motivated me to do my coaching licenses, probably more than anything, because I knew a lot about soccer. I knew a ton about soccer, probably more than most, but it was all from on the field, not on the sideline, and how to manage the performance environment, how to manage a group. I was always thinking about myself. That's why I always tell people like playing professionally was very cool, but it's just selfish uh you know job essentially, because I have to think about me and how am I hydrating, how am I eating, how am I training, how's my body feeling, am I recovering enough, am I so it's all about me and my body and what I'm doing to make sure that I can perform my job. Whereas now it's on the flip side, it's the exact opposite. Nothing is about me almost. It's all about my team. It's all about how's this group? How are they feeling? I am the facilitator and I am kind of like, those bumpers that you put on in bowling that like keep everybody kind of on the path where we're supposed to be going, but it's going to look so different the way that we get there. But I'm in charge of, like I said, the performance environment, and that stretches way further than I ever knew. It's not just about them as players, it's about them as people, as daughters, as girlfriends, as granddaughters. And then on top of that, they're students. So the couple of years at junior college actually helped me be a really good recruiter because the turnover is so quick that you basically have to recruit a new team every single year, which was great because I knew nothing about it. So that was very helpful. I also had the head coaches that I worked for, they just threw me in. And I don't think that was and for me, that worked. For some people, it would not work. But like for me, I like to just like, figure it out as I'm going. Um, I don't like a lot of hand holding with stuff. I just kind of like be like, you know what? Best way to like, my opinion, learn is just go for it. And then you figure out your mistakes along the way and you just tweak, 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 tweak. And so that's kind of what happened to me too. Like I only got 2 seasons with one at KCK and then 1 season at Johnson County. And I could have used more, but I had a head coaching job now and that they both pushed me to get. And so, yeah, just from there, it's just been learn along the way. You're going to make mistakes, but be confident. Your team is a reflection of you. Make sure it's always that way. COVID came, so that was a whole nother a whole thing to navigate through college sports. It's been the most fulfilling thing I've ever done, outside of me building my family.
Yeah.
Being a mom has changed me as well, as a coach. you just see things differently and talk about not being selfish. Like you can't, you just these little creatures I created are now relying on me to be alive. And so, I had always kind of looked at my team as my kids, but it's never more true than it has been, especially since I've been a mom now.
Yeah.
So it's really changed me a lot. Um, and yeah, I just feel super supported at Avila and um yeah, it's been I don't know if there's enough words to really describe how this has been for me, but it was an interesting transition out of playing, but I think I'm where I'm supposed to be.
Yeah, you just mentioned you're a mom and you're also a head soccer coach. So how is it, balancing? I've talked to other coaches who are, parents, moms, fathers. So just how is it for you balancing being both, a mom and a head coach? Because I'm sure, both of them take a lot of your time. And, being a head soccer coach, you're,
Yeah,
on the road a lot, away games. So just how is it balancing being a mom and a head soccer coach?
it's hard. I
Yeah,
won't lie to you. It's again, it's a for luckily for me, my obviously my season is hard and crazy. So, but I have the immense support of my family. So my mom actually gets to watch my kids. So I've got two that are school age now. So they'll be going to school here soon. And so I'm just really supported, which is fantastic. And it's the only way that it works,
yeah,
to be honest. My husband is he is my biggest fan. And wants me to be everything that I want to be on the coaching side. But is also completely understanding when I feel like I need to put on the brakes and just be a mom for a little bit. Because my kids need that too, right? They're young, they still need mom and they're not always going to need me in this way. And so my athletic director and all the leadership here at Apple is very understanding of when I have to go pick up a sick kid, they're not, upset that I'm not at my desk, stuff like that. So there's aspects of this job that make it very, very easy. But I live in the neighborhood. My mom lives in the neighborhood. So like I can't complain. My commute's short. I have a great support system, not only at Avila, but with my family. So that's the only way it works. Otherwise, I don't know how anybody else does it.
yeah. And Coach, I always ask this question to end as a good wrap up. So thanks for your time. But for you, what do you enjoy most about getting to be a head soccer coach? And especially, what is most special to you about, being the head soccer coach at Avila, a place that I'm sure is a second home to you. It's a great community. And just it's so special to your family because, your parents went there. Siblings that went there, your brother's the head soccer coach. So just, how special is this just to be the head soccer coach at Avila for you?
It's a blessing. Like I said, it's been such a joy. I've grown a lot, so it's been challenging in lots of ways, but lots of good people in my life because of it. And that includes my team. I tell the girls all the time, even though this is kind of cheesy, but my goal is to get invited to your wedding and to hear about the job you get or the kids that you have or the pets you get or whatever. I'm in it for the long haul. Like once you're here at Avila, like I'm in your life and I want that and that's what I'm looking for. And soccer is just the vehicle that we get there. So the luxury that I get to be a head coach because not everybody gets to. Lots of people vie for it and they just don't get to. So I'm very yeah, just blessed and thankful and very grateful for all the support I've had through this entire time here. And that includes my student athletes who watched me transition to a mom and watched me transition from a player to a coach and be with me and trust me to come in when they knew that because before I came in, the team was 0 and 18.
Yeah.
And so to trust me to like take on this and come with me for the journey and they they sat through it even though sometimes it was rough. So yeah, it's beyond words, but hopefully those are enough.
Yeah. And finally, to end, just what's the best thing for you about, you mentioned it, about being a head soccer coach? Is it, for you, is it the competition or is it more just making an impact on young women's lives and being part of their lives? What's the best part about you about getting to coach?
That I get to still enjoy the game that I love,
Mhm.
but get to impact people on a level that I did not know existed.